under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and is the symbol of perfect friendship among the united cultures.
Now turn time over to Charlie Powell for the invocation.
Lord, we come first to acknowledge who you are, who you have always been, and who you will always be in our lives. In our hearts, we plan our course, but we pray you establish our steps. We ask for wisdom as decisions are made and for your guidance to help us to come up with effective strategies that can enable us to move forward in a meaningful way. Help us to generate good plans that are practical, sustainable, and easily implemented. We thank you for the ability to address all the topics needed to be discussed and come up with excellent solutions. Let us leave this meeting knowing we have represented the citizens of this county in a way that honors you. We ask this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Mr. County Manager.
Good morning, Commissioners. We excuse Commissioner Henry this morning. He's sort of on his own trail of tears. He's taking his daughter to Baylor. So we excuse him this morning. He mentioned it at the last meeting. I don't have any, have not received any public comments or announcements. Are there any public comments or announcements from the audience this morning? Seeing none, we'll move to service awards, and I'd like to go first to Miss Betsy Bradshaw. She's the only one that's in attendance, and she has a lot of friends in the audience here, so we'd like to recognize Miss Betsy Bradshaw, Fire and Rescue, for 5 years service. Come up. He didn't like it.
Do we want to do one with everybody?
His daughter. Yeah. 2 years younger, too. I think we're okay. Thank you. We do have 3 other service milestones that we'd like to recognize. First is Isidro Martinez, Public Works, Artesia, 20 years. Mr. Warren Harden here in the administrative and the community services group. He takes care of our GIS, 15 years. And last but not least, Miss Kimberly Ritchie from detention with 5 years. We appreciate all of the employees and their years of service, and we're pleased to be able to recognize these milestones. With that, we'll move to the trailing agenda. Item number 1A, Commission meeting minutes for August 3rd, 2021.
Questions or comments on commission meeting minutes?
Make a motion, we approve.
Second. Motion is second. Please call for the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is expense approval report for July 2021.
Any questions or comments on expense approval report for July?
No.
Having none, entertain a motion that we approve the expense approval report for July.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Please call for the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Here.
Cordova? Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. I take the here was a yes. The next item on the agenda is a budget adjustment for Public Works landfill equipment. Mr. Jason Burns.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We're putting this request today. We're having several of our equipment leases come due at the landfill, and we feel that several of our pieces of equipment would be better served and would be more beneficial to the county as far as overall expenditure and use if we purchase versus lease some of these pieces of equipment, that we'd get a better life and better dollar for the county overall. With that, the first one we're going to ask is for the bulldozer. It's coming up due in December, so we're asking for this now so we can go ahead and procure and not see very much lapse with the use of the equipment. So, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
If
sir.
we're going to start purchasing rather than leasing?
Yes, sir. On certain pieces, we have, I think it's 9 pieces out at the landfill. With some of our reorganization of equipment that we have, we've been able to realize some savings out there. We are intending to continue to lease the compactor, as that's one that is in the trash 100% of the time. And with some of our projects that we're doing and are coming to completion out there, it should be the only one that's in the trash the majority of the time. The bulldozer will be in the trash some of the time, but is also going to be used as a dirt ripper.
Okay. My question was going to be, have we given thought to maintenance program and replacement as to the number of hours before, because, there's a diminishing return after a certain point.
Right, exactly. And what we've realized on that, and I put together a spreadsheet, and I apologize I didn't bring it with me this morning, but what we've seen is if we get past about 4 years, 5 years with the amount we lease it for, we see a savings exponentially as we go on. And we fully intend for this piece of equipment to last 8 to 10 years. And once we get past 4, we start to realize savings.
At what point would we be out on warranty?
It would be a 5-year warranty, but that also can have an extended warranty with the maintenance and the, it's a do-it-together program as long as we keep up with the oil samples and the filter changes, which we just hired a landfill mechanic, that's going to be his primary purpose and task is to keep up with the maintenance of the machines.
And so we would keep up with that.
Yes.
And we would do a cost benefit.
We would do the
on
regular
extended
maintenance.
warranty.
Yes, we will do the regular maintenance, and then anything else above and beyond the maintenance would be done in the shop, or if we have to bring it in or ship it off to Hobbs, that's where, or Artesia, that's where it would go.
So this was not in the budget. This would have to be added to the budget for this year. So.
I'm good with that. Good equipment.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We'll entertain a motion that we approve the budget as a public works landfill for the dozer.
I make that motion.
Motion second, please call the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 3, budget adjustment to road maintenance supplies. Mr. Burns.
So what this request is for is to be able to go out and maintenance the roads back to their original condition with the rains that we've seen within the past couple months. We've had a few major locations that have washed out and been damaged. This will cover those and everything that we're having to do in addition to what we originally planned this year with the budget.
That's good, because I'm having to put my pickup in 4-wheel drive to get home. Just wanted to say that.
You just do that because you like putting in 4-wheel drive. But this, we've talked about this, Jason and I, and I think this is a better alternative than to go into DHSEM and FEMA and all of the trappings that go with that. I think we can take care of this within our means and without the what word would you use?
Headaches.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
State and federal oversight of how things occur.
I totally 100% agree with that.
And this is going to be part of where we're documenting our, like, repair of roads to submit back?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's still a little potential that would be reimbursed for this. We're going to submit it to the state with the repairs that we complete, with the potential of some reimbursement, but it's not the upfront, this is what we need to repair these. We're going to go ahead and do them and repair them and get them back to what they need, and then maybe.
It allows us to do it on our time frame with our, we're in charge, local control.
And if we were Doniana, the governor would send us $1 million. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I'm all for it.
Any funds you can get us, we'll use.
Yeah, trappings, I like that, trappings, because that's got multiple definitions when you're talking about FEMA. So,
Yes, sir.
I think that was very appropriate. That was a very appropriate adjective.
We've been working the trappings of our past.
Continuously
We're soon to be free.
Yes.
Good.
Maybe they do that on purpose, so they don't have to give you the money.
So you can apply it.
Interesting. Entertain a motion that we approve the budget adjustment for road maintenance supplies, $1.75 million.
So moved.
Motion second, please call the vote.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Beard.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Cordova.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Burns.
Jason.
Item number 4, we request the director to have the Planning and Development Advisory Committee develop a fire code ordinance. Mr. Zuniga.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. This is just a follow-up, kind of the small discussion we had last meeting about starting fire code with what the commission's already looking at doing at building, business licensing goes hand in hand. Part of normal business licensing ordinance requires a fire inspection. If we don't have our own fire code, then those business license people would be waiting for the state of New Mexico to do those inspections. Us adopting fire code would allow us to do those inspections at a reasonable time frame, which they're not currently being done. We aren't looking to do anything more stringent than the state of New Mexico is already doing, so our businesses would be the exact same code. The code that they're following now, they would be following, it would just be Eddy County, so we could do those inspections and help the businesses in a time frame.
But it wouldn't affect private ownership.
No, this is, like I said, the fire ordinance we're looking is what they're already bound to by the state. The state already has it in place. They're doing those inspections. I don't know if you guys have dealt with that. That's a very lengthy process. So we're trying to streamline that for our citizens.
Great.
Timing is perfect with the changes that you guys have approved for fire rescue, and if we're going to do business licensing, now is the perfect time to put this in our opinion.
And they would act on the delegation of the state fire marshal. So
Essentially working under an MOU, or how's?
The state allows the local governments to adopt their own fire code, and then we would be responsible for our fire code.
Okay.
The cities already have it. Artesia has a fire code, Carlsbad has a fire code. There's other places where the state allows us to adopt our own fire code.
So this is going to be basically the same code, it's just going to enable you to do the inspections?
Correct. We're not allowed to go more lax than the state. We have to meet the state minimum. We could go more stringent. We're not looking to do that. We're looking at going with what the citizens are already bound by on the state.
And streamline it, move it forward faster.
absolutely right.
And we're not in any way going to go retroactively make people come to code. This is from new construction heading forward.
Right, like I said, and this is the code they're already bound by. So
Right.
it's not like we're going and enacting something and making them come up to it. They're already bound by this code.
Okay.
The only thing that would affect citizens out there is if they were already in violation of code.
But then they can work with us instead of working with the state in order to get up to code.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Better deal.
And this was something we spoke about when we talked about the cannabis, possible cannabis ordinance, and having to have those provisions in place so that we could do that with those businesses if they seek to do business in Eddy County.
Absolutely.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I support it. I have dealt with State Fire Marshal, and my experience with them, with the guys on the ground, was really good. The guys in the office was a little difficult. The guys on the ground were exceptional to deal with, but it did take 3 to 6 months to get them, and we can't slow building down that much. I had an entire facility that we had applied for it. We waited 3 months after getting our plans approved. We waited 3 months with an entirely finished facility waiting for a fire inspection.
So, and they're just stretched so thin. Like I said, this will help the residents. This will help us be better prepared if there is an emergency at those locations. And so, in my opinion, it's just best for everybody, but especially for the citizens.
Yeah, and we know what's going on. You guys are familiar with the systems. When you get called out to a fire, you've inspected the systems. There's multiple benefits to this, and what we don't want to do is put more of a burden on the people developing and contractors, but we want to be able to streamline it for it if they already have to meet the requirements. We just want to make it easier for them to meet the requirements. So appreciate you guys putting this together. So
The motion we approve?
Second.
motion is second. Please call for the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Zuniga.
Thank you.
Item number 5, requesting a public hearing to approve ordinance 021-106, non-exclusive franchise agreement with Southwestern Public Service Company, to be set for September 7th during the regular scheduled commission meeting. Mr. Cooper.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, before you is draft 021-106, which is a 10-year non-exclusive franchise agreement between Southwestern Public Service Company, also known as XL, and Eddy County. And we're requesting a public hearing to be set.
So as I've come to learn, the process for a franchise, setting a franchise agreement, is it has to go through ordinance. We've been working with XL for a couple of months to organize this agreement, and we're now at the place where we're ready to do that. I think both parties are lined up, so we just need this process. So at the next commission meeting, we will open a public hearing portion to adopt that ordinance or franchise agreement.
And in talking with Cass, we've got a number of these franchise agreements, and so we would like to try to get this one completed, and then we would bring the bulk of the rest of them that have come due to the commission and set us a public hearing and then move on from there.
So is this just for county service of power or
Right. So it's
just through the counties and business? So for example, because that's the only game in town unless you're in Artesia, which is CBE, is that kind of what we're asking for here?
So basically what this ordinance does is it just provides the agreement between the XL and the county for right-of-way and how that process moves forward. Rather than XL having to go get permits, it kind of speeds the process up for our community, and then it just spells out how there's to go about those types of things.
You were getting me really excited thinking that we were going to have another power company.
No.
I was like, surely that doesn't happen this easily because we've been asking for that for a long time. Okay, I'm way less excited about this, but I'll still vote for it. But I was like, yeah, heck yes, we want somebody else. Can we get CVE and Carlsbad and give these guys some competition and actually get power? They're worse than the fire marshals are to get services out of. I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
It's just kind of an agreement between.
Can you bring that one next time to the next meeting? Can we vote on that? That would be fine with me. Okay.
We'll work on it.
Work that one out.
Yeah.
In the end, Kent, is there part of the ordinance that we can include that would hold SBS accountable for the damages that they're doing within our right-of-way, in which they're taking trucks and stuff and putting outriggers and stuff on our newly paved roads and stuff that we have really had a problem with, and that we need to include something that holds them accountable.
So I think Jason and I spoke about this when we were reviewing this ordinance, and I think we're going to be able to take care of that within policy and the issues that come up.
That is required in the ordinance. They have to comply with.
So that, like Cass just said, part of the ordinance is that they still have to come through our right-of-way permit process that
We're going to be able to hammer them.
a couple months ago, and in that, they still have to pull a permit, and they're still liable for any damages they cause while in our right-of-way.
Well, you know, when you and I drove up on that, where we were having damage done to our main road, and we contacted them, it was like, so sorry, so bad. You know, that was kind of the attitude, and that doesn't get it for me.
That's something that we've been in communication with their representative about, that they've assured us is going to be fixed directly. So,
Mr. Lackey, the government relations, local government relations advisors, here with us today, so he's taking notes.
We are addressing that, because it is still kind of an ongoing issue with their subcontractors, with their pads out on the new roads that we've spent a significant amount of money to fix. So we are addressing that and have people out inspecting as they are in the right of way.
The other big issue that we had talked about in the past is the issue of having grant funding and the time that it takes for them to get out there and get something done. It puts a liability on the county as far as losing those grant funds or different things like that, and Al worked with them on this, with this ordinance, and if that ever happens, it cancels this ordinance out, and
Have to revert back to the regular permitting process and pay for
right
all those provisions.
Okay, thank you.
Entertain a motion that we approve the public hearing request for ordinance 021-016, non-exclusive franchise agreement with Xcel Energy, or with SPS.
So moved.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Hooper and Mr. Burns.
Wes.
We'll move into the resolution and agreement consent agenda portion. That'll work. Here, we'll get these signatures. One of these, if I have agreement 21-121 that we would need your signatures on here, that's the agreement with the Village of Loving for fire services. So.
Any questions there?
No, I'm just making you aware, so I don't think there's anything we need to pull.
Oh,
Sorry, on my bad.
No. So, okay.
I have nothing.
We're good. So we'll entertain a motion that we approve the resolution and agreement consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Motion second, please call for the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Looking at that, it looks like we'll be fine with just the chairman's signature, so we'll have him do those with the regular signatures. I was thinking we needed more, so give those to Tara. Thank you, commissioners. Item 7, department updates. Should just have you a little chair up front.
Don't usually do good at the front of the classroom, sir.
Do you do better at the back?
With the dunce hat.
Okay.
The answer is no. I'm just happy to have him in class.
Commissioners, I just want to give you an update real quick. We are, it's still raining. Praise the Lord for the rain. We need every drop we can get. So we are still out. We're still checking roads. We have not seen any further damage in what we've already seen. No further washouts. It's making some of the ones that we currently have a little worse, but that's okay because we're coming back to fix those anyway. So we're working through that, and it's not necessarily detrimental to progress, but we are working through that and still moving forward. We're moving forward with our FEMA projects diligently, even though it's causing them minor delays when the roads are trying to work on continue to flood out. So we're waiting and just kind of seeing. We need all the rain we can get, but we're working through this. So if there's any other that we're not seeing or anything we need to address, please let us know. We still have the road tracker that's up and working on the website for anyone else that might be listening, or anyone that calls you and has concerns. Please direct them to that or direct them to our phone line, and we'll get those addressed as soon as possible. We also have the vector guys out that, as long as they can possibly stand, trying to get mosquitoes and get those sprayed for, and they cover the entire county. So we're working with them to try to get them out everywhere they need to be all at once. So, and we're also putting together a plan to try to get the weeds knocked down in the right of way. So it's a lot of things happening all at once, but we're working diligently through that. So.
Thank you.
The other, real quick, at the landfill, we are a couple weeks from being able to open our tipping station. We haven't talked much about it, but we have a good project that we've been working very hard on out there that we hope to revise our operations at the landfill here very soon and get all of our people, all the citizens and the entities that use that landfill off of the top and off of the face and down to the bottom, and make that deal a much safer, much more efficient operation here within the next couple weeks. So.
Good.
She looks good.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Barnes. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I thought I'd give an update on some of the projects and also on the Arrowhead study and what we've been doing there. On the southeast loop, to start off with, Phase 1, we hope to have that completed by mid-September. Phase 2 and 3 we're looking at the same time. We've got a little bit of an issue in Phase 2 as far as right-of-way goes. Some of that property that we're going to need for right-of-ways in probate, and Cass is working on trying to push that through so that we can get moving on it. If not, if it gets hung up, we've got a backup plan to move to Phase 3, and we've got to have that money spent by June 30th of next year. So we want to make sure that we are able to use all of that. I talked to NMDOT, and the 31-285 intersection is supposed to go to November. So that'll be a really big deal for us. We're trying to get the Carrasco Road realignment.
In November this year?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Yep. So I think they're right at 90% design. It kind of got held up a little bit because of the railroad reviewing the plans. So it was stagnated there for a while, but we knew that probably was going to happen. So anyways, we would like to have Carrasco Road ready, the realignment of it, at the same time that goes to bid, so that we can try to save some money there, and hopefully maybe the same contractor would get that, and we would have less mobilization costs and that type of thing. So, and then with the Arrowhead study, we've got a meeting set up to present at the commission meeting in Valencia County. And then I've also met with RedRocket, and they're going to come give a presentation on some of the advertising they're doing about it. We selected some of the counties that we're having a hard time getting into to kind of push that. And the slogan right now is paid for by. And then it's showing different projects that have happened in different counties throughout the state that wouldn't happen if they didn't have the funding from Southeast New Mexico. But they'll give a presentation, and we can always adjust that. I think that we did a 8 or 9 month contract with them to advertise and promote it. I wanted to start kind of right now and then go through the legislative session with it, and maybe that'll help us. But they'll come give a presentation on it, and then if you all have any ideas or would like to see something, we can adjust it and align to what you all would like to see. Okay.
Thank you, Wes. Other departments? All righty, then we'll move to legislative updates.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Jerry.
Things are popping with the legislature.
lots of interim committee meetings, changing of the House Majority Leader, floor leader, lots of controversy going on, but the thing is, it hasn't affected their ability to have a lot of meetings on the interim. Things are going pretty well, considering we had an interesting meeting about a week ago on revenue tax stabilization, where we actually saw the State Land Commissioner give a presentation on what was going on at the State Land Office. Representative Larry Scott from Hobbs posed some very interesting questions to the Commissioner, which I'll say she did not have appreciation for. They were logical questions as far as how some of the direction that the Land Commission is going as far as alternative energy, and opposing a lot of things happening with oil and gas. That is recorded. If you'd like to watch it, it's quite entertaining. That's all I'm going to say about that. But one of the big things that I've been following the last few weeks, which I'm sure is large interest to most of you, is the redistricting issue. This has been going on since the 1st of July. They've held 10 meetings around the state, public meetings and discussion of the redistricting. A lot of participation. As you know, this committee, this Citizen Redistricting Committee, was set up by the legislature in last year's 60-day session, hopefully to prevent the gerrymandering of districts once that's formed every 10 years, and we're in the 10-year cycle. There's been 10 meetings. I actually attended the one last week in person in Roswell. A very good turnout there. We saw Representative Nybert, Representative Ezell, Senator Engel, Representative Randall Peacock actually attended late by Zoom. Presentations were given by the City of Carlsbad, by Wendy Austin, and also by their consultant, Missy Currier. Carlsbad is in support of trying to get a designated senator for Carlsbad. I have different feelings about what that might look like at the end, and we can discuss that at a later meeting. I plan to have a more extensive presentation to you on all of this once the numbers come in, and maybe at the next commission meeting we'll have those numbers and able to do that. Some of the things that I'd like to visit with you about is the census numbers are in, and Southeast New Mexico looks favorable in comparisons to the other state, in comparison to the rest of the state. Eddy County actually came in first in the percentage increase of population in comparison with the rest of the state. And that's good news when we start talking about redistricting. Very good news. Lee County came in second. That's good, because that's all about our senators, our representation, and things like that. One of the things I wanted to bring up to you is in this committee, there's ideal population targets for these districts. And we have 3 congressional districts, and the ideal population is 705,841. In the Senate districts, we have 42, that's around 50,000. In the House districts, we have 70, that's around 30,000. Public Education Commission's about 200,000. The good thing that we're seeing in Congressional District 2 is we had an increase of 8,181 people. That gives us a little bit of a cushion when we start looking at what we heard the speaker say at the last legislature about making sure that Congressional District 2 looks different at the end of the day. This is going to be a little more challenging for them because Congressional District 1 actually lost population of 11,000, and Congressional District 2 only grew by 3,000, and Congressional 3. So this is all very interesting as we look at this thing.
CD2 grew 8181.
Excuse me?
CD2 grew
80, right, 8,181 people, which is a 1.16% increase. Touch on very quickly the Congressional Committee, Redistricting Committee had some designations within that piece of legislature that gave them direction on what they have to do, okay?
And those districts have to be reasonably compact. They have to be contiguous single-member districts. They have to attempt to preserve communities of interest. They have to take in consideration geographical and political boundaries, including political subdivisions, Indian nations, tribes, and pueblos. They must be composed of an entire precinct and may split them only if necessary to comply with Voting Rights Act. One of the things that's very important that we keep seeing is in each one of these meetings are the attempt to preserve the communities of interest. Okay? That's very challenging to do that. But all of these things taken in consideration is going to make a big difference at the end of the day when we start looking at these individual districts and how they're taken up. Have a lot more information. They've got to be, the congressional districts have to be as equal as practicable. In other words, zero goal deviation. The House and Senate must be substantially equal, which means no more than 10% deviation in the population between those districts. Something that I found very interesting is that as we look as communities of interest, and I'll just kind of show you this, southern New Mexico is 53% Hispanic now in CD2. Okay? That's a big deal when it comes to looking at the district. So that can mean a lot when we start talking about how these things are redistricted. Not so much with Native Americans, only 2% in that district. But all of these minority groups and things that we look at, the Hispanic population has increased. We're looking at about 47.7% Hispanics in the state of New Mexico now, and Native Americans are about 8.9%. So this is going to be a big issue, or a big thing to be looking at as they start redistricting, of how these communities of interest, and a lot of things have to do with the influence of the minority groups, which, as we can see, the Hispanic population, especially as we see from these numbers, is becoming closer and closer to a 50% level. So how is that going to be looked at when we start doing the redistricting, and especially communities of interest? So anyway, there's a lot of information. You can go to the website and look at it. One of the things that I do want to pass on to you in closing is there will be a second round of public meetings once the committee has formulated their numbers and drawn up the prospective maps, which they will present for the legislature. They will have another round of meetings statewide for the public to look at their proposals. One of them for special emphasis will be on October the 5th. They'll have another meeting in Roswell to do that. They have to have everything done by October the 31st, this committee does. So the window is closing quickly on that. So as we look at it from the commission standpoint, from our part of the world, and we look at trying to decide if we like what they're doing or not like what we're doing, it's going to be a crunch time to get that done. And I'll try to keep on top of this as much as possible. It's changing daily. One of the things that I do want to say is that the commission, this committee has been very responsive. They have a website you can go to. They have people that are there all day long. Yesterday I was asking for, they mentioned they had a meeting actually Sunday afternoon in Espanola, which I attended by Zoom. And one of the things that did come out was this new schedule on these secondary meetings. And I asked for that information yesterday, and within 15 minutes, I had the judge, who's the head of the committee, who actually responded to me personally by email, providing that information to me. Very receptive, and I've talked to him about 3 different times, Michael, who's there heading this up, and they get back to us really quick. So that's encouraging. Okay. Any questions about the redistricting? I think we have some positive things for southeast New Mexico and the southern CD2 that hopefully we're not going to be as easy a target. One of the things I do want to mention is that the committee has specifically addressed the fact that, and the public is asked, we hear what the legislature has a final say, what's the legislature going to do when it comes to this? And the committee has been very animate about saying this was set up for a reason, for the people to have a voice, and we're going to present it to them with the best data we can. And they really will have to listen, because these are the people speaking to what they want. So, any questions?
But ultimately, in the end, if they decide to walk the plank, so to speak, they can do what they want to without, and not even consider what this commission has put forward. I mean, their own risk in the election cycle. Is that correct?
Well said. I think what this does is that they have set up a system that will make them accountable to their constituents.
That they're regretting that about right now.
Can't speak to that. I have not heard that. But I'm going to say that I am impressed with the process thus far, and I'm optimistic that the process will do what the legislature set it out to do. I think some of the language that was put into that was very specific for reasons, and I think right now it looks good. I'm very pleased with our numbers. Very pleased with our numbers as far as our census numbers go. I would like to see them higher, and they probably should have been higher, because we know what we had to face during that time with COVID and everything else going on, and downturn in the oil and gas part of it. But still, we came out, Eddy County had the largest percentage of increase in population in any county in the state, which was, and the other thing that reflects on us, and just kind of build on that, I think the thing that it reflects positive on us is the rest of the state's decreasing in population. Our population's coming up, and guess what? Our money's still flowing to Santa Fe. And so I think that's a big thing, that the rest of that story is we're helping support these counties that have lost population, and our money's still flowing north.
Well, it's objective data, that shows, what's happening. So you can't dispute that.
That's right.
That can be addressed in advertisement. The Arrowhead study through, is it RedRocket?
And I think that will build right onto our Arrowhead study that we do, is that, hey, look, here's the 2020 census. We're moving and shaking down here, folks.
It's going to be very important as we get closer to the next session that we all plan on spending an amount of time in Santa Fe getting across our message.
And I can tell you, Commissioner Carlson, is that it does not matter what kind of interim committee it is. And there's a slew of them. I told you there's 17 meetings this month, trying to get on those and do this too. It doesn't matter what the committee is. It can be Indian Affairs, it can be, whatever it might be. It never fails that oil and gas, the importance of oil and gas is not brought up in those meetings and recognized. Every one of them. And that's encouraging.
They always seem to remember it right down to the vote.
To the vote. And those are things we try to change, but sometimes there may be a partisan issue.
But we push hard.
We push hard. We're pushing hard. We really are.
Thank you, Jerry.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. We have no travel request consent on the agenda. We have no emergency business. Next item would be, we don't have any legislators here, would be elected officials. And
Doesn't have anything to report to us.
okay. We did get an upgrade though.
From Sheriff to Officer Hutchinson.
Don't you think?
I believe so, yeah.
Saying no comment?
Smart move.
There's a winner right there, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, item 12 is county manager comments. A couple of things. We have been watching the census data that came out August 12th. As Jerry said, the county's number one percentage-wise. We're number 6 in terms of total numbers of increase, with 8,450 increased. So the number that came out of the census data was 62,000 and change. Doing a little bit of looking at the maps and whatnot. There's a big swath starts in northeast New Mexico, kind of carries on through central New Mexico, and then off to the west, that populations decreased. And those that did increase were not as significant as you might think. So southeast New Mexico does stand out, step out. Talking with Wes and with the city, the project coordinator for the 2020 census project are going to go back and have a look at the count in terms of the transient workforce, and they're going to try and put together some information about the value and the opportunity of trying to petition that count to be included. We think there's some data that came out of the census data in terms of number of vacant units that we think is misleading. So we're going to look at that as a possibility. We'll do look at the effort versus impact and bring some of that information to you. If we did this, what would it look like and how long would it take? Would it make a difference in terms of, for the county allocations, things like that? So we'll bring some of that information to you. So again, data's not very old and lots of work going on there. Lots of interesting things to look at. Some of the current legislators are going to be challenged because their populations in their districts have diminished quite a bit. And so that realignment of legislators should give an opportunity for southeast New Mexico to have a larger voice. So, I saw Miss Jennifer here. She didn't come up for a department update, but she's been working with the City of Carlsbad, BLM, and several others on a 9/11 service commemorating 20 years since the tragedy. So I think, as I understand it, they've gone to our senior public speaker, Mr. Carlson. I think you're on the agenda to speak at this particular, so it's September 11th at noon, which is a Saturday, out at the Walter Gerald's Event Center. So lots of activity going on there. Maybe the last item to touch base on is the continued resurgence of positive cases in the county. Last February we had 475 cases to date, so through the 15th in the county we've had well over 700 cases. So the 478 cases in February were the tail end of the peak that we experienced through November, December, or January. I don't know how this is going to shape out here, but it is affecting schools, businesses, citizens, medical resources and whatnot, and the numbers of people being hospitalized goes up. We have had some positives here in the county, and we're using our employee policies to manage those in terms of isolation, quarantine, things like that. So the county has worked with New Mexico Department of Health. We've opened up the clinics back at the Walter Gerald's Event Center for Monday morning and Friday morning. So for those that would like to be vaccinated, you can register, and I think last Friday they did 109,
Over 200 right now.
okay, so we did about 100 each day for the last Friday and this past Monday. So it'll be open again Monday and Friday through the end of August for those that want to register and receive vaccination. The state $100 incentive still applies through the end of the month if that's of interest to folks. It does make a difference. I know there's a lot of different views about how that works, and we're not going to get into that type of debate, but vaccination is a good thing. With the comments from Mr. Burns, Public Works and the roads, we had a lot of water running this past weekend, mostly up on the northwest side. Benasco, Rocky Arroyo, some of those were running pretty heavy. Again, the moisture's good. I noticed water out of Brantley all the water that was taken out in July had been replaced over the weekend with what came down, which is a good thing for those ranchers and farmers who depend on the irrigation and the moisture. So, but we're trying to stay vigilant on those roads and trying to prevent folks. Mr. Zuniga had to step out, but there were a couple of rescues over the weekend. People doing, hey, I can make it. I got this. Hold my beer and watch this. Vehicles damaged, people were rescued okay, but the vehicles were left in them. So anyway, just, I think that according to Mr. Beard's, Commissioner Beard's almanac, we may have a few more weeks of this as the monsoon season of August, September rolls through. So we'll keep a vigilant eye on I hate to go do the road work and then have it wash again. So we're kind of, it's a delicate dance we do with the timing on that. So other than that, I think I appreciate everybody doing all that they can do, working for the county, and there's a lot going on. So with that, we'll turn it to commission comments, unless there are questions.
Commissioner Cordova?
Just want to thank first responders. I want to send a special thank you to the nursing staff that's working at Carlsbad Medical Center. They're stretched very thin as far as staffing goes, and that's just nursing staff in general. I had a good conversation with the Department of Health nursing staff, and they do have positions open. We need to really encourage our state Department of Health office in Santa Fe to kind of put a speed on getting people hired down here. For a lot of reasons, but nurses work hard, and I'm not saying that just because I am a nurse. I'm saying that because they work hard, and I just want to thank them for what they're doing. And of course, I want to encourage everyone to, if they're questioning getting the vaccine, please talk to somebody you trust about it. It's very easy to get it done nowadays. You can choose what you want. It's not just at the mercy of what they have. So please, make every effort to stay safe. I hate to see kids out of school right now. I hate to see kids sick. I have sick kids right now. And, I just don't wish that on anyone. So, think about it. Talk to those people you trust. Recognize your nurses. And let's do what we can to really support them in their efforts that they're doing. So, thank you.
To begin with, I would like to encourage anybody that is thinking about getting vaccinated to get vaccinated. I had the vaccination and I got COVID, so I had one of the breakthrough cases on COVID, and I had the Moderna, which is probably one of the more protective, and still had to face that. Had I not had that vaccination, I am totally convinced that I would have been in big trouble. And so it does save lives, and it does make it, if you are unfortunate enough to contract it in a breakthrough case, it does help in your recovery. So I would just encourage anybody that's even considering it to think about it hard, and those that are not even thinking about it to please think about it. So I would like to think about that. The other thing is watching the news, since I've had a lot of time to watch the news and stuff. It was a sad day and a close of a chapter in our history in which we withdrew from Afghanistan and the fall of Afghanistan back to the Taliban. Let us never forget that it was the Taliban that gave safe harbor to the terrorists that attacked our nation. That's all I have. Thank you.
To build on that a little bit, it's a disaster over there from what I'm seeing. I mean, we need to be out of there. I agree wholeheartedly we need to be out of there. But this is a whole lot like what happened in Vietnam, and some of us can remember that. We needed to do it in a very different way, and there was a very different plan. And I happen to know that the generals got overridden on this withdrawal, and I'll let it go at that. I'd like to say a little bit about the COVID, and unless I'm mistaken, I had heard as recently as this morning, we're still one of the lowest counties on the vaccine rate, but we have at least reached 50%. Is that correct?
I haven't seen that statistic. Miss Jennifer's nodding yes, so thank you. That's, because we're at 42%, that's a big jump for us.
So I don't know whether that's because of the jump we got, people are waking up and saying, hey, but it's a good thing.
I'm usually not too windy, but today I'm going to be windy, so I apologize ahead of time. We would like to recognize that Judge Beard, Fred's mother, recently passed. She was a judge in the community and a public servant for a long time. I've said Fred, Commissioner Beard. I guess everybody realized that. She was, I'm sure if Jason had grown up here, he'd have really got to know her good, but a lot of us knew Judge Beard. She did a lot of good. She had a good friend who got pulled over for a seatbelt ticket in high school. He says seatbelts are stupid because they only protect me, and I shouldn't be given a seatbelt ticket if I don't want to protect myself. So she, in her infinite wisdom, had him write a 2 or 3 page essay, and it was, anyways, it was, she handled it perfectly, just like she handled a lot of other cases perfectly, and she gave just punishment and taught lessons at the same time. So we appreciated her service and are sad to see her pass. And starting with Fred, he said it's the right time, so it's not something to mourn, but rather celebrate her life. So in a few other things that I have here, we have been working with the railroad, been working with Wes and trying to work on the railroad. The railroad's washed out. We've been talking to them about some flooding issues and things like that. The railroad's actually washed out at on Lake Road over there at the Lakewood deal. So that's a pretty big deal. We got pictures. We got hundreds of feet of railroad, just all the ballast washed out from underneath it. So we need to get in there and put some culverts in or do something like that. And Wes has been working on that, and appreciate Wes working on that. We do have the school board meeting this evening. It's at 6 p.m. I know a lot of people have been invited to that. There's asking everybody to show up to a central office and voice support for the school board. Along with that, there has been some, I think Torrance County passed a resolution in supporting or in trying to bring local control back to the school board. In talking with Commissioner Henry yesterday, he brought up some good points. He said, I don't think it goes far enough. He says we need city councils and county commissions and school boards to all have local control, just as the states have local control, and states wanted their own. The states wanted their own control from the federal government. You know, the counties, the cities, and the school boards need local control as well. And so I don't know if we're looking at an ordinance like that or something. If we are, Commissioner Henry wanted his voice to be heard on that, and I agree with that as well. We can make a lot better decisions locally for the individuals in our county's school boards, or in our county's school districts and cities than they can at the state. So, you know, we would like to have that. We'd like to have that opportunity to do that. The biggest thing that I want to report on today is last week I got to go to the southern border with Congresswoman Harrell. I invited myself, and they allowed me to go, which was good. That's how I get to go places, is I have to invite myself. So invited myself. We had a lunch with her that Jerry set up, Jerry Fanning, and she got talking about the southern border. She said, well, I've been down there 7 or 8 times. And I said, I would love to go next time you go. She said, well, I'm going next Wednesday. I'll see if I can get you on. So she was able to get me in. And let me tell you, it was a huge, huge eye-opener. This was the highlight of my year, though it was very alarming. It was by far the highlight of my year and the things that I've been able to do so far. On the southern border, we had 4 Border Patrol agents that went with us. We went to the Johnson Ranch. We're in Columbus, New Mexico down there. I used to go to Columbus to get boots made when I was in college, so I was pretty familiar with Columbus. We didn't cross the border this time. But so we went to the Johnson Ranch and met with the Johnsons. We met with Yvette Harrell and some of the people from Farm Bureau, the insurance company. They were there. So we went down there. We had 4 Border Patrol agents, and we had about an hour and a half discussion there on the board. The fence is about 30 feet tall, in case anybody's wondering. It's got a tremendous footing that goes underneath it, and it's got about 6-inch pipes that go 30 feet tall, and they're all filled with concrete. And then they put in fiber optic and all sorts of these other digital tracking capabilities that those are buried in the ground next to the fence. These 4 Border Patrol agents in the El Paso sector that goes from Fort Hancock to Lordsburg are getting 700 encounters on a slow day, and 700, that's 700 illegal encounters on a slow day, and on a busy day it's upwards of 1,200, and that's per day in a 200-mile swath. The cartels control 100% of the border. So if you think you live in Mexico and you want to walk across the United States and just better your life, well, guess what? If you put your backpack on and start trucking this way, the cartel kills you because you don't have permission to cross. They monitor the border just as close as the Border Patrol agents do. So there's no passing to and from the border without paying your big, which is between $2,500 and $3,500. Everybody who comes across is actually identified and they have a bracelet. So they've got a bracelet and it's got a pig or a chicken or a fish or some sort of an animal. It's just those little plastic bracelets that you put on. That identifies those people coming from each sector. So the people that are coming across are ear tagged or earmarked like cattle would be. And after they pay their ransom, after they pay their way, so to speak, get their ticket to come across, then they go ahead and come across. The sheriff reported to us last time that we're apprehending more fentanyl here than in Bernalillo. Is that still correct, Officer Hutchins?
Yes, sir.
So we've got 62180 that comes through Carlsbad. 62180 is considered a back road. There's no technology on 62180 like there would be on freeways for tracking vehicles. And when you go in and out of Las Cruces or El Paso, you have all these cameras and everything. They know a lot of comings and goings, but 62180 isn't like that. So they come right through Carlsbad, and they're packing fentanyl, and they're packing a lot of other drugs and things like that, and they head to wherever they're going to go. So the El Paso sector, apprehending 700 to 1,200 a day, are able to Title 42 a lot of those citizens, a lot of the Mexican nationals, Guatemalans, whatever, all of the illegal aliens that they're capturing. And Title 42 essentially means under the COVID rules they can send them back. So they do send back a good portion of them, but they are not allowed to send back all of them. The El Paso sector, even apprehending that many, they still are shipped in. They have 3 plane loads every day of 135 people, and those are coming either from McAllen or coming from the Tucson sector. So they're shipped in on a plane, and that's about 400 people more every day because they have the capabilities to process. Out of those 400, they are only allowed to Title 42 100 of them, which means that they now release 300 of these apprehended illegal aliens into the United States. Until 2 weeks ago, if you were being released into the United States, you had to be released to somebody who had a background check, who was a family member, who was fingerprinted, and who was documented. So Stephen McCutcheon will say, I'm crossing the border. I cross over, they catch me, they go, okay, well, we're not going to Title 42 you, we can't send you back. We've met our quota for Title 42 today. We're now going to turn you loose, okay? So they're going to turn me loose. They say, where do you want to go? And I say, I want to go to Milwaukee. I have a cousin in Milwaukee. Before 2 weeks ago, they would say, okay, we get your cousin in Milwaukee, we put you in the holding facilities. That's what everybody sees around. They're in a holding facility. I check with the cousin in Milwaukee. He gets fingerprinted. He passes a background check, XYZ, and then I'm released to him. A couple of weeks ago, the Biden administration adjusted that order to where if I'm Stephen and I walk across and I get caught now, they say, where do you want to go? And I say, well, I would like to go to Milwaukee. I have a cousin there. And they go, here is your plane ticket. And they stick you on a plane. And that's it. They don't know where I'm going. They don't know who I'm going with his family. They don't verify that he doesn't have a criminal record or she doesn't have a criminal record. They just turn you loose and you're gone. And they put you on a plane. You don't have an ID, but you have a name badge. That's your ID. You have a little lanyard, and they stuff 12 or 13 of them on planes at the same time and ship them all over the country. And so that's what's happening. That's what's happening on the southern border as well. The officers verified, they said 20 to 30% of the people they're apprehending have COVID. So I don't know that the uptick in our part of the world isn't somewhat due to the open southern border. I'm not sure of that. I can't verify that information, but I can tell you that 100% that is what's happening. That's coming from the Border Patrol agents on the ground. Now, they said, first of all, they said we love the wall. They said they have 263 or 268, something like that, Border Patrol agents employed in the El Paso sector, and if we figure about 25% of them are working at one time, let's just call it about 80, 85 Border Patrol agents are working. They said they usually have between 15 and 20 miles of border to secure, so they run 2 agents, and say they got 20 miles of border to secure. Well, when they get a call of a sighting or something like that, if you're 20 miles away on a dirt road, it takes a heck of a long time to get there. So what the cartel is also doing, they have these $20,000 and $30,000 drones. They fly drones, multiple drones at a time. So how the wall is, let me back up. The wall runs and it stops and there's a 3/4 mile gap. Then it runs another few hundred miles and then there's another little gap in it. And then it runs a few hundred miles the other way. There's 3 or 4 or 5 of these gaps along the wall in the southern border. And so what the cartels have done is they set up with these very expensive drones and well-trained pilots, and they know the comings and goings exactly of where all the Border Patrol agents are. They keep people, scouts in the mountains, in the brush, and they keep scouts 24/7 out there. They know exactly who's going. Everybody's armed, and they are controlling the southern border. The United States does not control the southern border. It's controlled by your local cartel. So they're arresting these guys. They've got $600 hiking boots. They've got QU hunting apparel. I mean, these guys are dressed out in $2,500 worth of prime hunting gear so that they can walk. It's not typically not the simple person just trying to walk over and improve his or her life. These are trained operatives, and it's more of a military exercise than it is a innocent passing of the southern border, because they know what they're doing. So I don't know, I could probably go on and on, but the greatest threat to national security in Commissioner McCutcheon's mind is 100% the southern border. It's not just Mexican nationals, it's not just Guatemalan nationals, but they're nationals from all over the world. The majority are Mexican nationals, and then Central and South American nationals, but beyond that, we do have a lot of other nationalities that are coming. The Border Patrol agents say they love the wall. It just gives them a longer response time and helps them know who is coming. So in these sectors where they don't have the wall, obviously we have far less crossings. And their biggest thing is they said, that's fine. If you're not going to finish the wall, that's okay. But continue to put in the fiber optics and continually to put in the digital monitoring and do those things so that we know when things are triggered. The ranchers down there are finding 1 to 2 dead people per month on their ranch. They find them leaned up against drinkers. People are breaking floats off and draining water. They've had their pickup stolen at gunpoint. Imagine this. There's a really nice family down there. A typical day is they wake up and they all leave together. So we've got a husband and a wife, and they've got 2 small children. They wake up, they all eat breakfast together. He puts his gun on and he goes and feeds the horses for the day. Then he goes back, gets his family, and they're going to go check waters and fix fence or move cows or whatever they're going to do for the day, but they all go together because he can't leave them together. When they're at home, the children can't go outside to play, but they go all out to work together. They come home for lunch and they eat lunch together. They go out for the day. They come in at the end of the day. When they come in at the end of the day, the wife stays in the pickup with a loaded firearm. The husband goes in, secures, looks under every bed, looks in every closet, goes through their entire house, comes back out, tells his wife it's okay. He escorts her to the house. Then he comes back and he goes back up on the hill to feed the horses for the end of the day. Can you imagine living life like that? This is absolutely ridiculous what's happening on the southern border. And though they may be the ones that are in actual apparent danger, it's every one of us, it's every other United States citizen that does not even know that the danger we're in. I'm sure Officer Hutchinson could go on for hours about how prolific drugs are, about how prolific prostitution is, not to mention we're not even talking about what's happened to these poor women in these camps that are coming in. We're not talking about the cartels control sex trafficking and controlling all the prostitution on the southern border. They're controlling prostitution on this side of the border and using the southern border to transport the victims. And so we could go on and on, but just remember how it would be to live like that. So anything you can do to post on social media about what's going on down there, we have not got the truth, and it's been hidden from us, and I have seen it with my own eyes. So if you need a testimony of somebody that has seen it, I have. We were a quarter mile away when the helicopters flew in and pinned down 2 groups. A quarter mile away, I have a picture of the helicopter on the hill. Just right there from us. And it was 2 miles from their house. But that's every day. So I pray for the people that live on the southern border, and I pray for the rest of us, because we are the ones that are going to be paying the price for all the drugs, for all the prostitution, for the organized crime that has been allowed to proliferate on the border and affect all the rest of us as United States citizens. So with that, I'm out of comments.
Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate your comments and insights. We do have an item in the executive session, so if we could move into executive session. I think this would be short. I think we say 15 minutes. I know people go, yeah. But that, if we finish sooner, then we don't have to wait for the so that would be my suggestion, if you would move into executive session.
I will entertain a motion that we go into executive session, returning at 10. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Take any breaks, anything like that? Good to go, breaks, anything?
So moved.
So moved. All right, we're going to executive session. Motion second. Please call the vote.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Beard?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Cordova?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.